So welcome to this March meetup with the HP developer community. My name is Didier. I'm the technical lead for the community. And today we have Neil with us. It's the return of Neil because we had Neil already talking in a Munch and Learn in January. And there was a very interesting session of observability over the last century or so. Today, we're going deep dive into another technology around observability called eBPF. Neil will tell us everything about how this will transform observability and how this technology is really important. So, but hold on, before that, I would like to advertise and amplify some of the things we're doing around as part of the HP developer community. These are the meetups, and we have meetups, as you know, every month for the last more than 2 years now. We don't have a session fully baked yet for April. It will be, there's a big chance that it will be around Sustainability Insight Center, but I need to confirm, and I should have the answer by Friday, but stay tuned. The date is April 30, so always the last Wednesday of every month. However, we have a session already planned for May, and this is going to be done by our colleagues from the compute side on Compute of Management API and the DevOps ecosystem around it. So there will be an update and the review of some of the developer tools. This will be done by Lionel Julien. I think most of you probably know Lionel from his work around the GreenLake library and many other PowerShell tools that he's built over time. This is one type of session that we do. As I said, monthly, we go deeper dive into a particular technology. You can find the calendar for these events on our page. My colleague Denis in the background will paste all the links in the chat, so you can cut and paste from that. So if you check the meetups, you'll see the upcoming meetup. You can register there. And you will also see, and that's important, the replay of all the past sessions. And we will have this one with Neil available within a few days, maximum 3 or 4 days. And it will be up there available for you to review if you missed it. We have another type of sessions that we call the Munch and Learn. And these are actually older. They're more than 3 years old now. We started this session. We deliver it every month. And these are more like thought leadership type of sessions, trying to be vendor and product agnostic when possible, not always possible. We have a session, and guess what? It's on observability as well, because we have Raj from the UK talking about a day N plus, a new way to look at observability. So this will be another interesting talk on April 16th by Raj. We have started recently a third type of talk called the AI Jam. Well, for the Munch and Learn, sorry, the links that Denis will paste or has already pasted will allow you to register for that session. And you'll find, of course, all the replays for the Munch and Learn over the last 3 years there if you're interested by one particular topic. We started, as I said, a third type of session. It's a little bit different in the format. It's more like a panel discussions with some experts from HPE. And we call these the AI Jam or the Get Real or Keep It Real with AI Jam series. And we know we have a session on April 23rd. I'm sorry I cannot put yet the information, the detailed information about it. So you can pre-book this time if you're interested. We have a dedicated page for that. This is where I'll advertise the session and the registration link. And you can find there the replay of the past sessions as well. So that's it for the webinars. We also have another topic for skilling up, which we call workshops on demand. And this is more like a way you can get hands-on on particular technology. We developed this way back in the pandemic times in order to be able to deliver workshops without a face-to-face event. We have a catalog of about 34, I think now, 34 workshops, and you can book this and you'll be sent a link to a Jupyter notebook. We standardize on Jupyter to deliver the content, and you'll be able to follow the workshops directly on your browser. So we use this is available 24/7 to everyone for free. give it a try. There's a number of sessions on open source technologies, such as you'll find, for example, Docker 101, Kubernetes 101, and then there are programming languages for getting started with Python, with Rust. And you can also find things like OneView, programming OneView, Redfish, and other things which are more product focused. Lastly, I'd like to say that this is a community, so we always need you to help amplify and contribute when possible. So how to amplify? Pretty easy. You can invite anyone to these talks if you think they're useful, because these are open. We allow customers, partners, of course, internals. You can forward to students if you think the topic is useful. You can send to colleagues and anyone you want. So don't hesitate to invite. You can also join and invite others to join our monthly newsletter. It's a quick sign up on our webpage. We send it once a month, and this allows you to stay in touch with what we provide as webinars and the blogs we release every month, and there's quite a few. You can also join a Slack. We have a dedicated Slack that is available for customer partners to ask questions on developer issues that they might find on any of our product. I say any, but we have more than 50 channels now. So there's a lot of topics being covered. For example, the Aruba Airhead folks have started 4 different channels there for supporting in the different Aruba product. But we have also GreenLake API. We started one on OpsRamp and many other topics. So you can go check there, submit an issue or talk about something or share something, and we continue the conversation there. And it's unrelated to the HP internal Slack, where we also have a channel there, but this is very different. We have a Twitter/X account. I'm not really a Twitter user myself, but we share a lot of stuff there, and we amplify things on this channel. If you're an SME, I'm interested because we are looking for volunteers to contribute blogs. So if you are interested in sharing your knowledge, we have a content management system, a CMS that is pretty easy to use. You can use rich text or you can use Markdown. All you need is really a GitHub account to contribute. So reach out to us. We can also have you as a speaker for a meetup, or maybe participate in some events when we have events where we need more people. You can also check out the workshop catalog and decide that, okay, we're missing something and you want to contribute to that. So we had several contributions in the past from employees within HPE that wanted to create a workshop because they wanted to deliver it and also they wanted to leave a trace. So that's it. The links to find us, the newsletter, the Slack, the internal Slack, the workshop on demand. There's always a mail as well, so you can reach out to us through mail, and you can scan that QR code to get all those links at once. The main webpage is developer.hp.com. And with that, I will turn it over to Neil to get some eBPF insights.
Another great intro, Didier. Thank you so much. So it's great to be back. Can't believe we're already near the end of March. It's obviously, it was a couple of months ago when we did the logs, meetup. So a lot's been happening since then. But today I wanted to focus on something that I am really starting to get interested in and passionate about, is this technology called eBPF. Now, every now and again, I call it once in a blue moon, this happens. So I've been involved in this space for over 35 years now, and it's very rare that a new type of telemetry data surfaces that's going to help end customers, right, to help them with their observability practices. And I believe it's really has the potential to be very, transformative. Okay, so here's the agenda. I just want to give some insights into current observability approaches. Obviously, I'm working with OpsRamp, so there is an element of OpsRamp in the presentation today. I'd like to go through, what I see in the market, particularly over the last couple of years, where I believe there are blind spots that eBPF is perfectly positioned to fill. I'll give a very brief introduction, obviously, into what it is. This is a 101 sort of level. So the assumption is you don't know much about this at all. And the goal will be that you come away here with a better understanding and how potentially it can be applied. So I'll go through how I think it will transform, the observability of, IT systems, show you some example use cases, and an OpsRamp use case that I've been working to create a demo on. I'll explain how to install, the tools that you need to make this happen. And then I'll go into the OpsRamp platform and show you an example. There are some limitations, with the technology today, because it is still relatively, new. And I'll give you a link to some resources, and then just finish off, if you have any questions. So without further delays, so just this is one of the main OpsRamp slides that we initially go through with customers to explain why OpsRamp exists in the first place. So clearly, hybrid cloud infrastructure, it's just becoming incredibly difficult to manage these environments. There are several issues. Lacking visibility is the main one. So you have all, the way that organizations are structured with different departments, business units, subsidiaries. It's very difficult for central IT teams to have full visibility into all of the environment, whether it's on-premise, cloud, or devices that are running on the edge. Now, with that, you have lots of different silos of data, and in particular, operational data. That's because each one of these groups here has acquired their own tooling over the years, which is perfectly fine. But that leads to this, siloed environment where it's causing the lack of visibility. And with multiple tools, you have escalating costs, particularly, for subscriptions, maintenance, and some of the IT practices that we are seeing daily now. They tend to still be very reactive and manual. And particularly when it comes to AI ops, observability, there is a bit of a skills gap. So eBPF is a skill that needs to be understood and learned. How are you going to leverage this technology? Because there's growing expectations of the business to do more with less. Okay, so we understand the pressures that everyone is under, and hopefully, OpsRamp has, and HPE combined has the solutions to help you. So the current observability approaches. So those of you that are familiar with any of my work, if you go on to the HPE demo portal, one of the solutions on there is an observability environment. And this is great, okay? It's giving me everything that I need based on the technology that is available to me today. So I'm able to monitor the health of my services. I have the single pane of glass into all of my infrastructure, whether it's up, down, etc. I can integrate with CI/CD pipeline events. So because we know that, most outages are caused by configuration change. I can monitor my power. I've got, scheduled maintenance, ticket history data, current open tickets and alerts. I have everything I need at my fingertips, monitoring user journeys, so user experience, all of the, the melt, so the metrics, events, logs, and traces. Everything is available to me in this one view. So that's the current approach. Is we want to be monitoring the golden signals like latency, error rate, operations per second, and then being able to troubleshoot issues. So it's with the current approach that we have where we're applying AI machine learning because it's event driven or alert driven. This is the current approach that we're taking. So we're providing the unified observability. We then apply AI analytics to that data, and then we want to apply automation. So this is what you can go and look at right now. So go onto the demo portal if you have a login, and then you'll be able to go through this environment here. So what it allows you to do is, okay, we are ingesting all of the telemetry data, metrics, events, logs, traces. Then we can understand, to a certain degree, what is actually happening, because we can correlate alerts across multiple telemetry data sources, as explained. So you can see here, I have a log alert, a trace alert. I have, native OpsRamp, metrics, which are in the form of monitors. And from here, you can launch into in context to go drill down into the traces and logs, for example. Okay, so this is, the best, that is available today. And the way I like to visualize this, okay, if you want a copy of this, we'd be happy to share this with you. But we call this day 2 operations. So you have day 1 operations, which is very much linked to solutions like Morpheus. I'm sure that there'll be, sessions around that going forward, but that's all about onboarding of IT services, new resources, devices that you provisioned into production. So then once they're in production, it becomes day 2. So we're managing the life cycle of those assets. So we want to be able to discover all of those assets, whether they're in the cloud or on premise. Those assets are going to generate data. Okay, so we're going to ingest that data into the OpsRamp platform. We're going to expose that externally if required to CMDBs. So, but then we're going to be ingesting the metrics, events, logs, traces, network flows. So this is all about improving service availability, with automation. And then you're able to, do things with that data. That's what we use observability for. So it's trying to focus on the unknown issues. So standard monitoring or traditional monitoring focusing on known issues. So we know we need to monitor CPU, memory, disk space, etc. And we probably know what to do when the issues occur. But observability, is really there to help you understand any unknown issues. Okay, so they're unknown because we've never seen them before, and we don't know what we need to do to deal with them. Okay, so that's where logs and traces really help you, but there are limitations with that, and that's where we believe eBPF is going to play a key role. And of course, as I said, we then want to manage the alerts, alert noise problem, manage the incidents, with automation. So this is OpsRamp today. So the challenges with this, as I said, it's the metrics, logs, events, traces are great, as I've just shown you, but they provide limited context when troubleshooting unknown problems. So what they do is they help you understand what is going on, okay, and when, but they don't really help you answer why that there's a problem. Okay, that's the key thing. And monitoring today can add performance overhead. Obviously, the technologies that we use here at OpsRamp, so we monitor resources remotely from what's called a gateway, or we can install agents on hosts, which is fine. They are pretty good at low overhead, but they do add some performance overhead. Okay, let's be honest here. So traditional observability, for applications, we've been focusing on open telemetry. If you watched the previous session back in January, you've heard me talk about this frequently. It's great, but it does require modifying applications or some applications. So there is auto instrumentation, but it does require some modification. And traditional observability doesn't allow you to gain deep insights into the inner workings of the kernel. Okay, and also network visibility. In OpsRamp, we call that topology maps, and I'll explain now. This is something that I actually uncovered last year, where we identified a visibility gap. So we had a customer that has a large deployment of Kubernetes clusters, but some of their workloads were connecting out remotely to databases that are not part of Kubernetes. And the current techniques of discovering these environments, that introduces a blind spot where we can't see the remote connection. Okay, that's one of the the challenges we have around visibility, and eBPF is going to hopefully close that visibility gap. Okay, so that was one issue I've personally found myself, and we want to address that. Okay, so what is this thing? So it's actually been around, the Berkeley Packet Filter, for many, many years, but eBPF has only been around for the last few years, really. And what it allows you to do is run programs. Right now, it's very much focused on the Linux operating system. It allows you to run programs that directly interact with the Linux kernel, because as you probably know, the Linux kernel is very, very difficult, right, to make changes to it. It takes years, right, to make changes to the Linux kernel. But what this technology does, it basically allows you to run a program that in a sandbox environment, so that it's safe to run. It's not going to introduce any vulnerabilities or add any issues. It allows you to connect to a system call. Now, the demo I'm going to show you is around deleted files. Okay, and it allows me to, when I delete a file, right, on a Linux device, obviously you got the actual remove RM command that runs in the user space. Okay, the things that I can actually see. And what it does, it will allow me to interact with the kernel and tell me, from a monitoring point of view, what files are being deleted. So that's attaching to the kernel runtime. Okay, and that is really what's transformative about this, is you don't need to make modifications to the kernel itself. You don't need to make any application code changes. And the use cases right now are in the networking, security, and of course observability space. Okay, so this is where it gets really, really interesting for us, who are practitioners in this place, to extend what we're doing today. And this is what you're going to see from OpsRamp. So these eBPF programs, they run in response to a kernel event. So I deleted a file. The kernel recognizes that, there's a system call that's made that carries out that task. And this programs, it can run in response to those events. And it does that in a safe way. So, and it hooks into the different kernel subsystems. And it's very low overhead because it runs in the kernel itself. So it's, what's not to like about that? And the main differences that we see with traditional monitoring approaches and an eBPF approach is that traditional monitoring sometimes requires agent, not all the time. It depends on the customer situation, whether they want to monitor their infrastructure remotely or they install agents. Typically, today with OpsRamp, we recommend installing agents. It's because of the functionality that you get is far greater than you can monitoring remotely. But with eBPF, you don't need an agent. And the visibility level of the kernel is very limited, but you have full visibility into the actual Linux kernel in this new way. Performance can potentially be high with traditional monitoring approaches, like using APIs. We do sometimes see, that. So we're running queries. There can be some challenges there, but from what we know, the performance overhead is pretty low when running an eBPF program. So as I said in the previous slide, sometimes, applications do require code changes in order to get any meaningful data out of them, but you don't need to do that with eBPF. And the real-time insights are immediate. So traditional monitoring approaches, you may be setting up, 1 minute, intervals, to collect data. Okay. That's great, but with eBPF, it's immediate. Okay, so they're the main differences that we are seeing with traditional approaches. So how do we believe that it will transform observability? I do believe this. It gives you that real-time visibility into, the inner workings of the Linux kernel. I'll explain about, some of the limitations later on, where there are other, Windows and other, devices are going to be supported. So it gives you that real-time visibility. It's a low overhead, profiling of performance. It allows you to, track, the system calls, allows you to perform anomaly detection on that data from a security point of view. It will also, from a network observability, you can inspect the packets, connection tracking. So that's one of the key use cases, is the connection tracking, because as I will explain to you, the way that the OpsRamp solution works is our machine learning alert correlation is connected to the topology map, which is the connections. So if we've got a visibility gap, we're not able to, to do, alert correlation for all of the dependencies. So this is really going to be transformative. And of course, it allows you to debug, trace applications and the behavior of those applications running in a production environment. So it is very different in what you can do with this. But we are obviously very early days into the implementation of this. So there are, if you've, got some, Ubuntu or other Linux virtual machines that you have access to try this on, you can install the different tools, eBPF trace, if you wanted to compile a program. I'll show you an example in a minute. There are some open source solutions out there as well. Cilium is probably the most well-known, but you can go on to the eBPF website, where you can see a lot of the major applications that are available today. So let's look at the use cases. So performance monitoring, it really allows you to profile, the system to really understand what is going on, with CPU and memory, because it's all in real time. You're not waiting 1 minute to understand, CPU usage or, any memory issues. We can identify slow system calls. As you probably know, observability is around these golden signals, so latency, error rate. So we can detect high latency operations. The example will be, profiling a database workload, and I'll show you an example of that in a second. So from a network observability point of view, you'll be able to capture and analyze network traffic, without any type of packet loss. The connections, again, one of the main use cases will be to understand the different connections that are being made, by the operating system out to, remote systems, something that is not able to be discovered today with current techniques. Looking for, latency bottlenecks in, say, Kubernetes environments. Again, we do a great job today, but there are gaps, and we hope that eBPF is going to fill them. So being able to debug Kubernetes, service to services communication is one of the examples. I'll show you some of the OpsRamp use cases in a second. So security, not a traditional area that, the OpsRamp solution focusing on, but nevertheless, it's just data, and we can ingest it into the platform. Like, who's actually accessing files. traditional monitoring approaches just will and cannot tell you that information. But because we're hooked into the kernel, that information can be surfaced and it can be used, to improve your security posture. So here's an example. So you have a database query that is running slow. You're getting information from the logs, metrics are telling you things, but they don't explain why it's running slow. That's really the difference that we're hoping to get from this, is being able to answer the why. Okay, we're good at the what and the when, but we need more insights to answer why things are running slow. So here, the example, you could use OpenTelemetry, right? The logs are telling you that a query executed at this time, it took 5 minutes, but why? That's not normal. Why is it taking so long, 5 minutes to run a query? The metrics look normal. CPU, memory, disk, because maybe you're monitoring them every minute. Okay. The traces can tell you that there's a long running query, but no deeper insights than that. So the difference here with eBPF data is you'll be able to use the tracing element from this technology to look at the system calls that potentially can reveal, that the query was spending, say, 90% of its time waiting on the disk IO. You then have the IO latency monitoring, again, which potentially can show you the disk is spiking. Okay. You can see what background processes are running or that are trying to compete for disk access. So it's really, these are the blind spots that you're going to be able to get that traditional observability practices just can't fulfill those needs. And that's why we believe it's transformative. So moving on to the OpsRamp solution. So part of the roadmap that was announced last month, I think it was, we're going to be focusing on a couple of use cases with the OpsRamp platform, starting with really Kubernetes. We're going to be, introducing, a solution there to probe the kernel and the user space. We're calling it Application Performance Monitoring Plus. And the key thing that, really stuck out for me when I was introduced to this information was the 1.3 here. We'll be able to look at external communication for visibility and patterns. That's really, what customers that I've been speaking to are looking for. Okay, they're blind, right? So they don't know what their application is being connected to. And so that's one of the main use cases that OpsRamp is going to focus on there. So OpsRamp has always provided what we call service maps. Okay, when I get to the demo in a second, I'll show you. But we'll be able to give you a full, picture from, from the compute, network, and storage layers. So just moving on quickly. Again, we want to be able to really get to all of the dependencies across the technology stack, from the end users facing services and all of the various dependencies. That's really going to be key. And we'll be able to surface all of that telemetry data across the workloads and network layers. And again, with storage as well, you'll have finally the full stack visibility, but this time we'll be injecting it with eBPF kernel level telemetry data. So that's in addition to everything that we are doing today, okay, for metrics, logs, events, and traces. So again, this is going to give you that enhanced service visibility and automation. So the actual, I call this the discovery to remediation workflow. It's really how we tell the OpsRamp story to demonstrate the value. So eBPF here, as you can see, is going to be another type of data that we'll be able to ingest into the platform to give you that enhanced visibility. And then from there, we'll be able to leverage the current capabilities in the platform around AIOps and automation. Okay, so this is really going to be significant, and we're introducing this feature hopefully in the next few weeks, because it was announced that we would look at this for Q2. So we will see. So what I want to do is just go through a demo. So I'm going to come out of this presentation in a few seconds. So in order to, if you want to try this out for yourself, if you've got an Ubuntu environment, that's just the one that I use. But any Linux platform running kernel version 4.4 or later has eBPF built into it. Okay, so all you need to do is make sure your system's up to date, and then you can just run this command here to install the tools that you need. And there's a command line tool here called eBPF trace, and what this example here is doing is basically connecting into that kernel event where I'm basically creating files. And so the output of this command is telling me what files are being created. Okay, again, that's impossible with current monitoring approaches. OpenTelemetry doesn't tell me this, but this is just an example of what you can do with this platform. So let me just quickly explain what I'm going to do. So what I've put in place, right now is I want to monitor deleted files in my application. So I have a program that's written in Go, and I just run it, and it's going to attach to the Linux kernel to a system called sysenter unlink at. And what that's doing is, it's when a file is deleted, it senses this, and what it's going to do, I've put in the program, is I'm going to write that data to the Linux syslog. Okay, as you can see here, that's the next step, and then I can leverage the OpsRamp platform to ingest that log data. I can then turn that log data into metrics, meaningful metrics. I can then visualize that data in the form of the dashboards, and then I can alert on that issue. So this is a completely different type of monitoring approach, things that we've never been able to do before. So on the left-hand side, I've got my my application. So if I just show you this, okay, it's just a Go application, and what it does, it's importing all the various libraries, okay, that allow me to connect to the kernel. And what it's doing is it's looking for any system call that's related to deleted files. Okay, and as I said, it's going to write that information to the Linux syslog. So if I just run the program, okay, like so. And right, so on the right hand side, I'm just going to create some files, okay, some product catalog files. And at the bottom here, I want to monitor any command that I run. So this is the eBPF trace command that you can install. So this is going to basically tell me any command that I run. So if I now remove these files, the actual eBPF is going to tell me that those files are removed. Okay, so you see here on the left, it's telling me that the file deletion by the process ID and then the file name. On the right hand side, you can see the command is called execve. That is basically the part of the kernel that, whenever you do anything in the user space, it's going to go execute that command. But this is actually telling me what I'm running. Okay, so if I do it again, right, create the files. Now you see, I created 500 files. It's outputted 500 times that I've run the touch command. Okay, so I've created the file. I'll delete them again. Okay, you're going to see that the rm command was executed. And then on the left, it's telling me all the files were deleted. So what's actually happened is I've written this to the Unix syslog, Now what I'm going to do is go into OpsRamp. Right, so I'm logged into OpsRamp. Again, this is, open to you to go take a look at. This is the, what I call the traditional monitoring, okay, that I showed you at the beginning. And it's telling me all the traces, logs, metrics, which is great, okay? But how about I create a new view? So here you can see on the top right-hand side, there's my deleted files. So I've refreshed my screen. So I think but it's logged out. So let me just do that again. Okay, so here's my widget. Okay, so this is actually a new widget that's been added to the platform. It's called logs. Okay, so I'm monitoring obviously the syslog, and here you can see that I'm keeping track of the deleted files. So let's just load them all up. So here I can see that there are thousands of deleted files. So here you can see the messages. Okay, it's a little bit cryptic, but this is really giving me the insights that I could never have done before. This is obviously a very, very simple use case that I want you to just start to think of the possibilities, because I've only just really started to scratch the surface of what you can do with this technology. But now imagine you want to know if anyone is deleting any files in your application. You now have that ability. So if I look here, I can now alert on this. So OpsRamp here is telling me that there are a high number of deleted files detected. Okay, and then I can, in context, go look at those. Okay, like so. So here is, if I look at, this is really the raw output from that screen I just showed you a minute ago with all those deleted files. So again, not been able to do anything like this before, ever. And it's really going to really change how we approach observability. Okay, so that's very, very basic, demonstration. Again, it's very, very simple. So with here, if I go back to the PowerPoint, again, we're tapping into the Linux kernel for what I want to, look at, for what I'm interested in. I want to track and trace deleted files with my application. Then all I'm doing is to get the data ingested into the OpsRamp platform. I'm writing that to the syslog. There will be other, mechanisms to do this, but right now this was the simplest way that I could show you how to do this. And then from there, I can turn logs into metrics, which then turn into alerts, because obviously metrics, is really what you want to focus on. And then you can visualize that. So again, giving you, this is one of the examples where, the blind spot will be removed. Right, current limitations. So as I've been researching this, there is some skills to be learned and knowledge around, you need to probably understand the kernel. I'm not a Linux kernel specialist from, not really, but, I quickly grasped the concepts. But so there is some knowledge to be gained there. And not all the Linux distributions support this fully yet, but if you're using the mainstream ones, anything above 4.4, you'll be fine. However, there are risks involved. So what I showed you was, was an open source program. And if those are badly written, that potentially could introduce some vulnerabilities. So you need to be careful there. Even though it is very low overhead, excessive use of lots of these programs could potentially impact the system performance. So you need to look at the use cases, on a case by case basis. Windows support is being developed, as is mobile operating system as well, such as Android. So there are a few limitations. There are some fantastic resources on here around. I haven't got enough space on the slide to show you them all, There are some really good books. You know, I'm probably going to buy these myself, because this is an area I think, you know, that can be, you know, obviously a game changer. So learn, you know, as much as you can based on what's available out there right now, to really get up to speed on the technology. So just to quickly summarize, you know, in terms of the key takeaways, I believe, and we believe here at OpsRamp, that this is a game changer. It's going to give you real-time observability without the overhead. So we talked about some of the challenges that exist today, and it's going to eliminate the blind spots that do exist. Right, what we do today is fantastic, but this is really the final piece of the jigsaw puzzle. And there are lots of good open source tools that you can use, you know, for making this happen. We're obviously at OpsRamp introducing solution, you know, imminently, but that's going to be really focusing on initially with the Kubernetes observability environment, and it's going to be transformative. So the future, we see it, you know, expanding adoption, particularly in the cloud native environments. That's going to be our focus, as I said. More and more tools are going to be, you know, providing, you know, insights, you know, particularly from a security and performance point of view. There is a growing ecosystem out there. It's really starting to gain momentum in the industry. It is unlikely to replace OpenTelemetry. Again, it's very, very different. So OpenTelemetry is obviously application really level insights, not kernel level insights. So I think it's going to be combining both of those, to give you, you know, the ultimate solution. So I just wanted to, I don't know if you wanted to say anything about this, Didier, and then we can ask some questions.
Yeah, if you can open the Q&A and take a look at the questions, I'll just speak about this this slide here. We are starting a program around helping Flex customers to get started with OpsRamp, and which is part of their license. So if you get if you have any of these customers yourself, or if you're a customer, please reach out to us. On the slides, you'll find a couple of links. I don't know, Tony, if you paste also some links like the Slack and the getting started documentation. So you'll hear more from us about this program in the future. Thank you. While Neil is answering questions, I will pop up the end of session poll. Please take a few seconds to get an answer before you disappear. Thank you. Go ahead, Neil. Did you get the questions?
Yeah, there's lots of really good questions here. I'm probably going to have to take these offline to spend some time with our developers of our solution. Okay.
Yeah, some people are asking in the chat as well, how different is that from strace or Truss, T-Russ, and I don't know if you can elaborate on that.
No, I think it is strace. I need to understand a bit more about that one. I'm not familiar with that myself.
Okay.
But this is, you know, is it part of, if you go to eBPF.io, is it part of what they're talking about there? That's really, you know, what I'm focusing on, and the tooling around there. So the example I gave you, right, is really just that comes, you know, that ships with the Linux operating system.
Okay.
It depends what, you know, what you're looking to do, what insights you need. Possible to monitor network traffic. Yeah, that is, you know, when it comes to the cloud native environment, that's going to be one of the use cases, is monitoring of network traffic. So will it run eBPF on the host? Yeah, it will run, you know, inside of the nodes. But again, as soon as I get, you know, more technical insights into the OpsRamp offering, then we will find a way to share that with you. Okay, I was hoping that I would have, you know, some more deeper level, you know, facts right around what we're going to be shipping. But as soon as I get access to a demo environment with this, then we'll be able to answer a lot of these questions, I believe. Okay. But thank you very much indeed for that.
Okay, so Neil, I will forward all the questions we had in the
Yes.
Q&A. If you can take some of them offline.
I
Thanks,
will.
everyone. Thank you, Neil. Thanks, everyone, for joining. And we hope to see you in April for our Munch and Learn, hopefully our AI Jam and our meetup, if I find one. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.